This is video number 4 in my critically acclaimed series of very short and to-the-point videos on topics that affect you in your everyday life. This particular video may be a little bit longer than the others in the series, but I promise I will do my very best to keep this video as short as possible and not waste any of your valuable time, because I know, unlike most other YouTubers, I know and I understand that you think your time is very valuable. So I promise not to waste any of it. The subject of this video is the FCC's apparently new tough stance on CB radio, ham radio, and GMRS radio rule breakers. And by that, I am not referring to people that use a ham or CB or GMRS radio to do things like interfere with a emergency services vehicle or helicopters. I am referring to the regular CB radio, ham radio, and GMRS dickheads out there just breaking the regular radio rules. In several previous videos, I have talked about and even made fun of the FCC because of how they do nothing about the millions of this type of simple rule violations that happen every day. And if you think that's an exaggeration, just turn on any CB radio, ham radio, or GMRS radio and flip through the channels. And unless you live in Canada, you will hear dozens of this type of violations per hour. Where I live, you would hear dozens of this type of violations per minute, because everyone knows that based on the FCC's previous track record of enforcing the rules on CB, ham radio, and GMRS radio, the dickheads all know they can get away with doing whatever they want on the airwaves. But if you look through the FCC enforcement database and documents going back to the year 2013 up through the beginning of the year 2023, you will find virtually zero enforcement actions for simple misuse of CB, ham radio, or GMRS airwaves against people. There have been a few enforcements against businesses and a few enforcements against people interfering with emergency services, like helicopters or police or ambulances, but virtually zero enforcements against anyone breaking just the regular GMRS, ham, or CB radio rules. Those are the simple rules like not interfering with people, not playing music, not preventing people from communicating, the rules that are intended to prevent radio dickheadery. But my friend, we now may be beginning to see a new age of government enforcement of these simple radio rules, a new age of cracking down on these domestic radio terrorists. Allow me to read from my notes so as not to make any mistakes. Notes taken directly from the Federal Communications Commission's documents, also known as the FCC eDocs system. On June 7th, in our year of our Lord Xenu 2023, one Martin T. Anderson of Vancouver, Washington, was busted by the FCC's for transmitting continuous dead air from his GMRS repeater. The FCC's sent Mr. Anderson a mean letter, and in that letter, the FCC's demanded that Mr. Anderson respond to the mean letter in writing to inform the FCC's of what corrective actions he has taken. This was the first of such mean letters that the FCC has sent out for this sort of violation in years. On May 30th, 2023, one Philip J. Beaudet of Burney, California, was busted by the FCC's for disrupting a weekly on-air ham radio net. For those of you that do not know what a radio net is, that's when a bunch of radio dorks get together on the radio at a certain time, and they all talk to each other, and they pretend to be important. After receiving several complaints, the FCC arm of the federal government investigated Mr. Beaudet from November 22nd, 2022 through December 1st, 2022. And from my understanding of this case, the FCC did not even bother sending Mr. Beaudet a mean letter, as is what usually happens, and instead went straight to proposing a $24,000 fine for his ham radio indiscretions. Again, the first of this type of fine for such a simple rule violation, which happens millions of times across the airwaves every day. The first one of these we've seen in years. And finally, and trust me, this one is the best, also on May 30th, 2023. That's 2 on the same day. Jayme John Leon of Rockford, Illinois, which is in the state of Chicago, was busted by the FCCs for playing stupid noises and recordings on his CB radio for extended periods of time after the FCC received several complaints that he was being a dickhead. On June 21st, 2022, an FCC agent observed Jayme being a dickhead with his CB radio, and the agent placed a warning notice on the windshield of Jayme's car, which Jayme ignored. So, 3 months later, the FCCs sent a mean letter to Jayme and informed him that he was no longer allowed to use his CB radio to transmit in these United States of America. 8 days later, Jayme contacted the FCC office by telephone and denied being a dickhead with his CB radio, claiming that someone had, quote, placed a milk crate containing a battery-operated transmitter at a corner near my house. At this time, the FCCs advised Jayme to put that in writing and formally submit his dickhead denial to the FCCs. Jayme chose to not do that, and instead, he immediately began being a dickhead again on his CB radio. Thusly, on October 21st, 2022, an FCC's agent went back to Jayme's home and again recorded extended transmissions of CB radio dickheadery coming from Jayme's home, similar to the previous transmissions. While he was there, the FCC's agent also searched for any hidden transmitters, but was unable to find any. Coincidentally, as the FCC's agent was leaving and drove past Jayme's home in his FCC's vehicle, the CB radio transmissions stopped. Also noted in the 2023 FCC's complaint is that Jayme has a history of breaking FCC rules. In 1999, the FCC's imposed a $14,000 fine against Jayme for the transmission of obscene, indecent, or profane words with his CB radio and for failure to make his CB radio available for inspection to FCC's agents. Jayme did not respond to that 1999 order, nor did he ever pay the $14,000 fine. In the year 2011, the FCC's issued another violation to Jayme for continuously transmitting music and sound effects from his CB radio, which Jayme also ignored. So on May 30th, 2023, the FCC's issued an additional fine of $25,000 to Jayme for willfully and repeated violations of the FCC's rules, which, if I know Jayme, he will probably just ignore. Classic Jayme. So, in summary, the short version, if you will, it appears that the FCC has gone after more people in the last few months for simple rule violations than it ever has in the previous 10 years combined. And while finally seeing a government agency doing its job is probably going to make most people very happy, it will no doubt make a few dickheads very nervous.